Okay, in this tutorial we will create a table. So a basic flat piece of board with 4 legs. So I'll start by adding a cube, and of course always forget to turn off my screencast keys. Here we go. Add the cube, scale it out, squish it down, somewhere it's good, like that. If you want to be precise, here I'll do it like this. If you want to be precise, when you shift 8 at the cube, there's a little box down here. You can open that and you can actually set the dimension. So a 2-meter table, that's reasonable, I guess. Square table, that's 2 meters. So I'll leave it like that. If I scale it out like that, like what I just did, I'm actually creating a really big table. The problem with that is when you use this asset later on, let's say in a animation or a game, then you gotta scale it back down to match the environment. Okay, so back to this. I'll just leave the cube as is, 2 meters in dimension, scale on the Z to make it flat like a board. Now we go into edit mode, and Control R is the loop cut. Wherever to determine where the loop is cut, you just move your cursor to where you want to cut it. Over here is good, and without clicking, I'm gonna roll my mouse wheel up once to create 2 cuts, and then left click to cut it, and then now you're able to slide it down, but I'm not going to slide it, so I'm going to right click to drop it down to the original spot, which is perfectly even cuts. Just quickly do that again. Okay, edit mode, Control R, put your cursor there, roll your wheel up once, and left click to cut, and right click to drop it without sliding it. So now I got 2 cuts like that, and I'll do 2 more on the side like that. And close that window. Okay, and then from the top view, I'm going to turn on X-ray mode, which is Alt-Z, or you can click this little icon on the top right over here. With X-ray mode on, I'm going to select these ones, these 4 and these 4, and then I'm going to scale Y. Scale on the Y-axis, pretty much to push them out to the edges. And same with these guys over here, scale them on the X to push them out. And now you get 4 squares at the end, which forms our legs. Turn off X-ray mode, Alt-Z. Press 3 to select face. And I'm going to select this one and this one, just all 4 corners. Once you select all 4 corners, or sorry, all 4 squares at the corners, press E to extrude, and then pull them down like that. There you go, that's your table. And for a basic table, since we learned about UV unwrapping and texturing last time, let's put that to use. For this, because it was originally created with a cube, the shape will not be correct. So you need to do a new unwrap, but there's a simple way to unwrap an object, and that is Smart UV Project. Before we go too far, let me take you there slowly. Select your object, go to UV editing at the top. Okay, you will get your object like that. You press A to select all of it. Let me turn on screencast on this side. So that's all the faces, but it won't be aligned correctly, especially this tabletop. The face is massive, but it's only represented with these even squares. That's because when we first made the table, it was made from 1 cube. So do a new unwrap, select all the faces, press U, and Smart UV Project. Leave all the settings as is, press OK. Okay, so you see now it's even more messed up, and that's gotta teach you a new trick. Okay, so go back out into object mode, select your object, Control A. This is an apply menu. You can apply the scale. Once you do that, go back into edit mode, select all the faces, press U, and Smart UV Project again. There, now everything lines up correctly. The reason for that is I modeled it out of a single cube. Blender doesn't know what that cube has become. So when you try and use Smart UV Project, it will still try and dissect that within the cube's dimension. Anyway, if you go back out and apply the scale, now Blender knows that this scale is the updated scale and it will unwrap based on that, if that makes any sense. Don't worry, just follow the procedure and you will get here. With that, we will create a new material. So new material, and I'll call that wood. Now we will go into the shading tab at the top. And just like when we did the milk box, we will Shift A, search for image texture, select it, drop it off, connect the color node into the base color node, and now we will open the wood texture that you can download from the Scan the World Project /DGS website. Open this image, and this gets it kind of close, but I'll teach you how to fine tune it. So go back to UV editing tab, and if you press home on the left side and home on the right side, you frame everything nicely. So you can't see the texture here. That's because it's hidden, tucked in there somewhere. So we press Z and 2, or you can click. I'm going to press 2. Now this is the texture. Of course there's a watermark here because I took this picture just from the internet. You can find other free textures elsewhere. I will show you that in class. I'm going to turn down the specular, make it less shiny. The specular makes it reflect light a bit too much, so I usually turn it down so I can see more clearly what it is. So these legs over here, they kind of make sense, right? This is usually how you would cut the piece of wood lengthwise to make the leg. This one over here, however, you see how this grain, this wood grain doesn't line up with this. So we can fix that. You select this face and you can see it on the left hand side. It's actually taking the texture vertically, but that's not what we want. So you highlight that, you press R for rotate, and I'll just rotate it by 90 degrees, 90. G, X, and I'll put it somewhere here, like that. If you don't like how it's so zoomed in, then you can always scale it out. If you go beyond the bounds of the texture, it will just repeat itself. Since this texture file is quite nice, you don't really see the seam. Sometimes you see a seam when you break out of here and rejoin on this side, but this is okay. Same with this side. I'll just do this one. Oops. Rotate by 90, and I'll just scale it out like that, and move it over here. So that's it, like that. Sometimes texture files are seamless, meaning you can tile it. Instead of selecting these faces individually like that, you can select one of the face, Control plus, and it will just grow. It will just grow your selection. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it will select too much, but it's still better than doing it individually. So you can see that I selected the tabletop, and it's pretty small. It only used this small portion of the texture. So how about we scale it up like that? So now you can see the table is much more defined. The texture is more clear. You can see a bit of seam, like how this wood grain doesn't really line up with the left and right, but that's okay, just for demonstration purposes. So let me show you again. Before it was like that, and it looks really grainy, like it's a bad picture. So if you take it, scale it up, meaning you're going to use this texture over and over again, and the resolution becomes a lot nicer. So that is creating a table with the textures, a wooden table.